They asked the class, how do you escape an apex predator? And the human raised his hand. The Galactic Academy's Hall of Survival was completely silent, which was impressive, considering it hosted 112 different species. But today, everyone was quiet. Today was Predator Evasion 101, widely seen as the most difficult course a non-human could ever take. At the front, Professor Telvac unfurled his forearms and activated the holodisplay. A monstrous silhouette appeared, 6 legs, serrated mandibles, and a tracking system so advanced it could detect thermal fluctuations from half a kilometer away. This, Telvac announced, is the Chargal, one of the most efficient apex predators in the Outer Rim. Now how does one escape it? A wave of nervous chattering rippled through the alien students. The Chargal was infamous. Even battle-hardened species like the Vokir kept their distance. Entire colonies had been evacuated when one just wandered too close. Telvac scanned the room. Well, who has a strategy? No one moved. A few students even shrank into their seats. Someone whimpered. Except one hand went up. A human hand. It belonged to Jace, the lone human exchange student, sitting casually in the second row, leaning back in his chair like he'd just been asked to solve basic math. Telvac blinked his secondary eyelids. Human Jace, you believe you have an answer? Jace just shrugged. Yeah. A few alien students turned toward him, whispering translations to each other. He must be insane. Maybe humans don't understand what apex predator means. He thinks everything is manageable. Typical human delusion. Telvac stepped aside, amused. Very well. How would you escape a Chargal? Jace stretched his arms. Simple. You don't run. He paused, letting the silence hang in the air for dramatic effect. You annoy until it gives up. The room exploded with confused noises, chirps, growls, buzzing, and hisses. Telvac himself froze, annoyed. He repeated slowly, as if the words physically hurt him. Yep, Jace said. My people call it running down the patience meter. Predators hunt because it's worth their energy. If you make yourself more trouble than the calories you provide, they'll just move on. A Vokir warrior raised a talon. That thing doesn't give up. It hunts until its prey stops breathing. Sure, Jace said. If the prey follows the rules, you just gotta break the rules. Telvac couldn't help himself. Explain. Jace hopped down from his seat, walked to the holodisplay, and pointed at the creature's legs. First, you zigzag. Half the room gasped. That is chaotic. A feathered Yarun commented in horror. Exactly, Jace said. Humans can change direction really fast. The Chargal can't. Its body mass and momentum work against it, make it miss, waste its energy. He then pointed at its mandibles. Second, throw stuff at it. Throw stuff. Telvac repeated, stunned. Trees, rocks, your backpack, whatever. Predators get confused when their dinner starts fighting back with projectiles. My ancestors survived apex predators bigger than this because we made them frustrated. A tiny J3 student raised a trembling limb. And if it catches you, Jace grinned. Then you do the human thing, which is, you fight dirty. The room exploded in shocked shrieks. Telvac nearly dropped his datapad. Human Jace, that creature can cleave armored bone with a single bite. Exactly, Jace replied. So you don't get bitten. You go for the eyes, the joints, the sensory pits. You don't win by overpowering it, to win by making the thing rethink all of its life choices. Some students were pale with fear. Others were completely mesmerized. Telvac stared at Jace like he was some strange mix of genius and existential threat. Before he could respond, the academy doors hissed open. A cadet sprinted inside, panting. Professor, emergency. A Chargal has been spotted near the training grounds. Panic erupted. Several species bolted for the exits as alarms blared overhead. Telvac clutched his head. Why today? Jace just cracked his knuckles. Guess we're doing a field demo. Telvac spun toward him. Field WH human. No. But Jace was already jogging toward the door, waving casually. relax. Teach, I got this. Besides, the best way to learn is hands-on. The rest of the class stared in horror as the human walked straight toward the danger everyone else was scrambling to escape, and somewhere deep in the forest, the chargal roared hungry, hunting. Deadly. Jace just grinned. Let's see how patient you are. The forest beyond the academy was strictly off-limits to students. It wasn't just wild, it was a meticulously designed death trap, a simulated ecosystem for the most advanced survival courses. Giant, spiraling trees clawed at the sky, and massive ferns carpeted the ground. Everything rustled with unseen life, things that preferred to remain hidden. Except for the one thing that absolutely, positively, wanted to be seen. The roar of a chargal ripped through the trees, a sound like thunder dragged across jagged metal. It was a noise that sent every other species on the planet scrambling for cover. Jace, however, just stretched his neck lazily, as if hearing a distant train. Okay. Big guy, where are you? A shadow flickered between the trunks, heavy. Thudding footfalls vibrated through the soul. A low, guttural growl answered him from the darkness. Jace said with a hint of a smile. There you are. Meanwhile, high up in the Academy control tower, absolute chaos was erupting. Professor Telvac, a multi-limbed scholar of great renown, was shouting at his technicians. Activate the perimeter shields. Sound the evacuation alarms. And for the love of the cosmos, where is that human? A young, trembling Yaroon student, his voice barely a squeak, pointed a shaky finger at the main surveillance feed. On the screen, Jace stood alone in a clearing. He had no armor, no weapons, not even a sharpened stick. Just his standard Dishu Academy boots and a whole lot of nerve. He is talking to it, the student whispered in disbelief. Telvac slapped two of his foreheads in exasperation. Of course he is. Back in the forest, the chargal finally emerged. It was a towering, insectoid nightmare, its body covered in thick, natural armor. Each of its 6 legs ended in a wicked, hooked claw, and its mandibles clashed together with a hungry, clicking sound. Most species would freeze, paralyzed by the sheer predatory presence of such a creature. Jace just smiled. Sup. The creature let out a piercing scream and charged. Now, any normal prey species would have run in a straight line, a desperate, frantic dash for survival. But Jace wasn't normal. He veered sharply left, then right, then left again. His feet hammered the dirt in a series of erratic, unpredictable patterns exactly like the ones he tried to describe in his xenobiology class. The chargal lunged, its massive jaws snapping shut just inches from his leg. In the control room, Professor Telvac screamed, "He's going to die." But one of the Vokir students, a warrior species known for their tactical minds, squinted at the screen. Wait, no. He's baiting it. Look at his stride patterns. He was right. Every sudden change in Jace's direction forced the massive predator to dig its claws into the ground, clumsily readjust its center of mass, and tried to follow, but it just couldn't match the human's agility. Each turn cost it precious energy, each missed lunge frustrated it even more. Jace reached a fallen tree trunk, effortlessly grabbed a thick branch, and turned mid-run. The chargal saw its chance and leaped through the air. In that split second, Jace hurled the branch like a primitive spear. It smacked the predator directly across its snout with a loud thwack. The creature halted, its charge broken, clearly stunned. The entire surveillance control room gasped in unison. The predator stared at the branch lying on the ground, its tiny black eyes twitching. It didn't understand. Prey wasn't supposed to throw things. Jace casually wiped the dirt from his hands. Rule 1. Make it confused. The chargal screeched in pure fury, charging again with renewed, reckless aggression. Okay, Jace said, backing out. Plan B. He reached for his backpack, swung it once by the strap for momentum, and flung it directly at the creature's face. The bag, surprisingly heavy, slapped the predator so hard it stumbled sideways. In the control tower, the chatter was frantic. He attacked IT with the bag, Humans are terrifying. What in the stars is in that backpack? Rocks, snacks, Telvac muttered, his voice heavy with resignation. It is always snacks. The chargal shook its head and roared again, this time sounding more angry than hungry. Right, Jay said, a new seriousness in his tone. So you're the stubborn type. He stopped running. The predator hesitated, its forward momentum faltering. Prey was not supposed to stop. Prey fled, screamed, and begged for its life. Jay simply raised his fists. Come on. The chargal charged. Jay stove under its swipe, rolled smoothly, and drove his heel into the joint of its left foreleg. A sickening crack echoed through the clearing, and the creature shrieked in pain. Human combat principle number 1, Jace muttered to himself. Target the joints. He ducked another wild swing, scooped up a fist-sized rock, and slammed it hard into the creature's sensory pit, one of the most vulnerable parts of its anatomy. The chargal howled in agony. From the control room, Telvac whispered, his voice filled with awe. He's fighting an apex predator with improvised weapons. And winning. The Vokir warrior's crest rose in respect. Humans are not a prey species. They are something else entirely. Back in the clearing, the chargal was stumbling, disoriented, furious, and most importantly hesitant. It had learned a critical lesson. This prey fought back. Hard. Jace began to circle it casually. Rule 3, he said, his voice calm and steady. Make it regret taking you. The creature lunged blindly. Jace sidestepped with ease and punched it, tactically punched it right on its mandible hinge. The predator crashed to the ground. Dazed and defeated, Jace stepped back, breathing steadily. All right. Buddy, you want to keep going, or you ready to call it a day? The chargal wheezed, twitched, and then slowly, painstakingly, began to back away. It was retreating. It turned and limped into the shadows of the forest, disappearing from view. The control room was utterly silent. Then someone whispered, He scared it off. Telvac slumped into a chair, clutching his datapad like a lifeline. Humans, he muttered to the stunned room, are nightmares. Wrapped in skin. Down in the clearing, Jace dusted off his hands and looked in the direction the creature had fled. One patience meter depleted.